Hello again, everybody. My name's Adam White. It is time once again for another Advocacy with Adam, and I've got a lot of things to talk about. It's April 2025, in case you are not watching this as it first came out. A lot of things to get ready for, because in a few short weeks, we're going to be in Palmer at the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering, and that's going to be May 3rd and 4th at Alaska State Fairgrounds. And I want to remind you, as I get a pen here to mark off the things I talk about as we talk about them, because I don't want to miss anything. I want to remind you that on Saturday, the 3rd at noon, I'm going to be giving an Advocacy with Adam presentation. I'm going to have a couple of folks with me to be able to help add some background and some color to two primary tasks and topics that we're going to talk about. Primarily is going to be the Anchorage airspace redesign and an update on unleaded fuel and that transition, how it pertains to us here in Alaska. So look forward to that whole entire weekend to be able to talk to you all face to face and be able to work through some of your concerns and maybe some of your ideas on how to fix some things that we talk about through some of this. So let's go ahead and jump right in. You may have seen the aviation media talk about the RCOs in the lower 48, and I'm talking with a lot of the acronyms I know. The remote communication outlets in the contiguous states, and Hawaii would be included with that proposal that are coming out. So it's not just contiguous, but there's talk of those RCOs going away. There's been a dramatic reduction in the use of those RCOs. And what does that mean for us here in Alaska? Well, we still use our RCOs up here, and you probably know this already, but Alaska Flight Service is handled by the FAA still. It is not contracted out to Leidos like it is in the lower 48. Leidos is working with the FAA, and there's a comment period that's open right now about getting rid of the remote communication outlets in the lower 48. Again, this is not going to happen here in Alaska with this round of conversations. I've talked to the folks at Flight Service. I've talked to different folks within the FAA. This is not on the table, not even being considered here in Alaska. And so we're safe right now. I do have some questions and concerns about how they're going to do things in the lower 48. I'll admit it's been a long time since I've flown any significant amount of time in the lower 48, other than just going back and forth from lower 48 to Alaska. Been 30 plus years since I flew any significant amount of time in the lower 48, but the things that we do here in Alaska with the remote communication outlets, how are they going to do that in the lower 48? I know ADSB helps a lot with that, with getting that information into the cockpit that we would be looking for. Are they expecting all the pilot reports to be submitted through air traffic control? Anyway, a lot of questions about that. Just want to make sure that you know and understand that this proposal does not impact Alaska at this time. So take a little bit of a deep breath and say, okay, phew, maybe we got a little bit of time, and we do. Is it going to happen here in Alaska eventually? I don't know. There's talk of new technology, new ways of doing things, ADSB getting data into the cockpit, satellite communications coming out of the cockpit. More and more people are running things like Starlink and other things. I still think we're going to have a need for RCOs in Alaska for a very long time. So speaking of technology, as I cross things off my list here to talk about, GPS interference testing. We had another round of that early part of April 4th through the 12th, I believe it was. And I was watching that event very closely to monitor the impacts of that. If you were affected by that GPS interference event here in the interior of the state of Alaska, please reach out to me. I want to hear your story. I want to know as much information as I can get from you about that event. And as you probably remember, these events are talked about in a NOTAM. The NOTAM is huge. Is it really the accurate impact area of the effect of the interference testing? Probably not, but in an abundance of caution, the FAA wants to make sure that they don't underestimate. But that has issues in its own. Some of the other concerns that I have is some of the legacy nav aids were not working in the area of the interference testing. So if GPS is gone and VORs aren't working, what are we to do? Other than dead reckoning and pilotage, which, by the way, when's the last time you actually did some legitimate dead reckoning and pilotage for your navigation? You probably ought to brush up on that. So just be aware, read those NOTAMs, look for those NOTAMs when they are occurring. It is a legitimate thing, and we need to keep track of the actual impact of those tests so that we can help the FAA and the Department of Defense make sure that that their notifications are accurate. All right, some big things that are happening this summer. If you operate in or around Merrill Field in Anchorage, you hopefully know already, but runway 7 and 25 is going to be closed this summer because they're going to redo that entire runway. They're going to start in June with some closures. They're hoping to keep it to within 60 days, but it may stretch out into August, and it probably will stretch out into August before they're completely done, but the runway is supposed to only be closed for 60 days. So if you operate in and out of Merrill, pay close attention to those NOTAMs about runway closures. The other two surfaces are going to be open. The shorter paved runway and then the gravel strip will be open. There's a possibility the shorter paved runway will be closed at night a couple of times while they do some of the work at the end there of 7 and 25. So again, check your NOTAMs because they're important. Some exciting news. I've talked about this for a while, but we should see some more ADS-B ground stations online very soon, if not already. And I need you to give me some feedback as to where you're picking up these new stations. So let me read you the list. There's one in Kodiak, one in Homer, one on Middleton Island, and on Johnstone Point that all should be coming online this month. In May, Tok, Fort Yukon, and just outside of Gulkana is another round of ADS-B ground stations that should be going online in May. So be looking for those things to show up on your iPad as you're flying around, or maybe your panel mount ADS-B in solution. And let me know where you're getting that coverage that you were not getting it before. The FAA has done some estimates on that coverage area from those service volumes, they call it. And again, it would be helpful to be able to give some valuable feedback and accurate feedback to the FAA as to where those things are showing up. So once again, in April, Kodiak, Homer, Middleton Island, Johnstone Point, and then in May, Tok, Fort Yukon, and then just outside of Gulkana. All right, so something else that we wanted to give you an update on that I'm going to be talking a lot about here in a few short weeks at the State Fairgrounds. Trying to figure out how to say this. We're coming into a seasonal change, right? You're taking the skis off the airplane, which that's one of the tasks I've got to get done. And hopefully you go through your survival gear and review that for the change of season to carry different things from winter to summer. But when was the last time you actually reviewed some of your airspace and procedures? Well, I can tell you that it's been too long on average for us to be able to answer that question. Some things have come to light in the Anchorage airspace redesign process. You may remember I'm a co-chair of the Ad Hoc Committee, which is a sampling of users of the Anchorage airspace and representatives of organizations that use the airspace. I represent the Alaska Airmen's Association, of course, in that committee, and the General Aviation Part 91 specifically type of operations that happen in and around Anchorage. It has come to light that a lot of people, and an embarrassingly high number of people, are not following the rules when it comes to equipage and access to airspace. It's not just the pilots that need to reevaluate this. The controllers are also looking at their procedures right now to see what they can do to help improve this. Flight Standards is also looking at this to see what they can do to help educate with the FAST team before violations they're not the solution for this, and we don't want to see that happen. But an alarmingly high number of people are violating the Anchorage Class Charlie airspace when it comes to ADS-B equipage. So I need you to go and refresh your memory with what 91.225, that's right, 14 CFR 91.225, talks about ADS-B requirements. I need you to read that. I need you to fully comprehend and understand what 91.225 says. A lot of people are not understanding that you cannot be above Class Charlie airspace and not be equipped. You have to be ADS-B out to be equipped. And here's the other thing that a lot of people have a misconception of, is that when you get a Part 93 deviation to leave the Anchorage Bowl, when you leave Merrill or Lake Hood and you ask for a Part 93 deviation, which is to not have to go under or above that tunnel of airspace to go into Elmendorf, if you get a deviation from those requirements, that does not give you a deviation to fly above the Class Charlie segment that's over Point McKenzie. A lot of people don't understand that, and a lot of people are doing it, and they are not ADS-B equipped. There's a lot of things as to how we know this. You look at radar tracks, look at data, all kinds of things that are telling us what's going on there. We, meaning industry and the FAA, are looking at these things right now for the Anchorage airspace redesign and what that may mean for that. So it's enough of a problem that the FAA on Friday issued a letter to airmen. And you can do a search. You can actually go to the NOTAM webpage for the FAA, and you can find that. It's notams.aim.faa.gov, and you can do a search for Anchorage, and you can look at letters to airmen, LTAs. This is LTA-A11-5. And I'm just going to read a couple of sentences here at the end of this to remind people of some of the biggest problems that we're seeing in the Anchorage area right now when it comes to non-equipped folks busting the airspace. A pilot request to use or ATC assignment of any of the VFR arrival and departure procedures contained in the Alaska Chart Supplement, as an example, the Chicken Loon departure, the gravel pit arrival, the city high departure, etc., it does not imply that a deviation from the requirements of 91.225 has been requested or has been issued. Specific requests for operating in contravention of the safety regulation are to be made in accordance with 14 CFR 91.225 G1 and 2. So you can go look up that chapter and verse to see what that means. But just because you are flying a specific VFR route that's listed in the Alaska Chart Supplement and you've been cleared to fly that route does not mean that you have been given a waiver to operate above or inside Class Charlie airspace without an ADS-B out solution. Go back and read the regs, folks, and make sure you know and understand that. We're going to talk a lot more about that at the gathering on Saturday, May the 3rd. And so I'm going to have a lot of more information I can share with you there at that point. And just again, as a reminder, the public process for the Anchorage airspace redesign is best guess right now probably going to start in September. So be looking for more details and more information as we get through the summer and into the fall for when and how you can attend some meetings with the FAA to understand their proposal. The Alaska Airmen's Association will be holding other meetings independent of the FAA. We will be doing those both virtually and in person in Anchorage to be able to help you, our members, understand what the proposal is, what it means, what its implications are, what our concerns are, and what you can do as far as the public process to file some constructive comments about how this airspace may work. So be looking for that. I'm going to keep talking about it as we get closer and closer. You have not missed an opportunity yet to communicate with the FAA. That has not occurred. So you have not been left out. You did not miss a comment period. They are still to come. And not only will it be for the Class Charlie proposal, but for the changes to the Class Deltas to accommodate those changes. And then we're going to go through a process of reviewing the VFR procedures in and out of Anchorage during that time and process. So with the time remaining, I want to talk to you a little bit more about some of the good things that are happening. Not that all this has been bad, it's not, but again, seriously, I don't know how to make this any more clear. Please go read and understand, and if you don't understand, ask a flight instructor, ask somebody who should know or does know. and make sure you fully understand what 91-225 states and what it means. Go through the Alaska Supplement and look at those procedures. There will be some additions and edits to those procedures here in the coming publication cycle. Not this one that happens this week, but the next cycle there will be some changes in that you need to make sure you're aware of, and so be looking for those. So 91-225, read it, understand it. Read Part 93 to know and understand what that airspace is and does, and what a Part 93 deviation gives you and what it does not give you. So some exciting things coming. If you use ForeFlight, which a lot of us do, as your source for charts and being able to do a lot of things with flight planning and actually in the cockpit, there's an update coming soon, very soon, I'm told, that we here in Alaska are going to really, really like. And I'm going to leave it at that. But when the opportunity to update ForeFlight comes, you should probably do it. There's going to be some added capabilities, I'm told, that those of us here in Alaska have been asking for a very long time. And hopefully by the time we get around to the trade show, we will be able to talk about that when we talk about that at the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering. I use those two phrases interchangeably. That kind of dates myself a little bit. But if you're a ForeFlight subscriber, look for some pretty exciting updates with this next round that's supposed to be released pretty soon. So look for that. Some other things that have been coming up in the news a lot lately is aviation safety. And as part of that, some comments made by our congressional delegation and concerns about the Don Young Alaska Safety Initiative, DIASI. Some people still call it FASI, which is the old acronym, which is just FAA Alaska Safety Initiative. Part of the FAA reauthorization, there was $25 million that was earmarked for that initiative that was supposed to be coming for at least 5 years. The FAA reauthorization process got it all put in there. It was all approved. It was all earmarked. Then, of course, you know that we are under a continuing resolution with the federal budget right now. And so what does that mean for actual funding? Some things aren't being funded. However, we got confirmation here within the past week that that $25 million is available and is there and will be used here in Alaska to enhance safety. Now, what are they going to use it for? $25 million sounds like a lot to you and me, but when it comes to the federal government, it's not that much money, to be honest with you. But there's some good things that are coming with that. There's going to be some improvements to the weather camera program, but significant amount of that, 20 million of that $25 million, is going to be going towards more weather. Not making more weather, but being able to record that weather, to be able to measure that weather, and be able to get that data to us so we can make better decisions about flying. And so we're looking, there's a weather working group with the FAA that is part of that DIASI, that Don Young Alaska Safety Initiative, that I sit on, and several others in industry are helping the FAA work through and come up with some ideas about how we can best use $20 million to be able to improve weather reporting here in the state. So there's discussion about trying to get some of these stations that have been offline for a very long time. Well, there's other money that's available to do that. We're hoping to get some of those online with Starlink, actually, being some of the solutions, because some of these problems with not getting the weather is simply because we can't get the data out of the village and into the internet and into the system. But we're looking at some difficult places to put weather information, put weather sensors, and seeing how we can maybe do some different things with some more modern technology. A phrase that was used in a meeting today, the FAA is using technology that was around with the Motorola brick phone, if you remember those, or the Nokia little, pretty much indestructible cell phones. But we're hoping to help the FAA get into the level of technology where it would be the equivalent of using an iPhone or an Android. So that $20 million this year is going to do a lot of things for us. I'll give you some more details as we know more about what that looks like down the road. Just as we wrap up, I want to remind you again to attend the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering in May 3rd and 4th at the Alaska State Fairgrounds. And then, of course, my presentation will be on Saturday at noon. And if you have not purchased your raffle tickets yet, you probably ought to do that. They're going quick. And we will be giving that airplane away Sunday. And that will be Sunday afternoon, May 4th. So encourage you to be there. You do not have to be present to win, but why would you not want to be there, right? So, all right, I appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate the feedback. If you want one of these stickers, these Advocacy with Adam stickers, they're available at the website. If you see me at the Great Alaska Aviation Gathering, I probably will have a few stickers in my pocket, and I'll be glad to give you one. If you have one of those stickers, again, I'd like to ask you to take a picture of wherever you have stuck that sticker, and I may use it here at the beginning of the video as a thumbnail to just kind of showcase what we're doing here with the Alaska Airmen's Association. Thank you for your time. Look forward to seeing you in a few short weeks. Enjoy spring and be safe. We'll see you next time.